around of the on-campus students who are in the middle of a snow week. Folks, if we meet on Friday, we will, as I mentioned in the announcement, talk about Bradstreet on Friday, Rowlandson next Monday, and then do Franklin and Edwards on Wednesday and Friday next week. So each author will have one day, and we should be meeting by Friday, I would think. But in the meantime, you're sort of living the life this week of distance students between MLK Day and the snow day today. So you can get a taste for how the other half lives in this course. And so far, things are looking good. Let me show you a little bit, remind you a little bit about what you have at your disposal on Blackboard. We do have some web links that I've put together for you on Collection 2. So you always have that to look at. Usually I think before you do most of the readings, you should pay that visit the weekend before. In this case, Bradstreet and Rowlandson. We have some materials there to take a look at to help you understand those poems and Rowlandson's narrative in a little bit more detail. Now going over to Salon in a real-time sense, here's where we are after Tuesday night's, actually after Sunday night's initial annotations, and then we'll take a quick look at PB Works and remind you where to find Tuesday night's reading responses. The rest of the week, for everyone, distance and face-to-face, we're sticking with our deadlines, even though that'll put us ahead in the face-to-face. I'd rather have us keep these deadlines and sort of ingrain those into our habits for the semester. So Thursday night, sometime by tomorrow night, if you could return to Salon, take a look at where the action is here on Collection 2. Bradstreet got a lot of attention, but so did Rowlandson. So far we have 93 comments on Bradstreet and 87 on Rowlandson, and 32 students have commented in each case. I am still a fan, as I mentioned in the introductory video. I'm not as much of a fan of clicking on either of these because that just gives you a very small amount of narrative to look at, and you have to scroll down. I like to look at the big picture. So for me, after I've used the pen icon for the first set of annotations, the initial annotations, when you just want a clean view of the text, remember you can click on the pen icon and get a clean version. Most of you, 32 of you, have done your initial annotations. So now I think it's time to move on to either the eyeball or the discussion bubble. And I like the discussion bubble as I look at this. For instance, let me show you what it looks like with Rowlandson. Takes a little moment to load this up, so don't panic because there's a lot of data. Here it comes. All right. So what the thought bubble gives you on Rowlandson is you still have all of the hot zones listed for you. So you can see here in the second paragraph, there's a lot of attention to the second paragraph of the text. But you have, on the right-hand side, you have a running account of what everybody has said and what everybody has said back. So, for instance, Anna has something to say about Rowlandson's attitude toward the Native Americans and maybe why some of the hostilities had taken place. That's already received 3 replies from Michael and Matthew and Chris, and those are expressed here just beneath. If you for some reason wanted to collapse the replies, you could do that and get rid of them, but for the most part the default will be showing these replies, and you students can jump into anything. You can either reply to something Anna said in the first place, or you can reply to one of the replies. So, and that goes on throughout the text, and you can isolate things if you want. As you know, you could highlight this paragraph, and what would come up over here would be only comments that were addressed to that particular paragraph, and you just click cancel to get out of that, and you can get back to the whole text and continue to kind of pick up on what your classmates have said, which, as you know, is the point of the follow-up annotations. So to get back out, you could, if you haven't done your annotations yet, just to remind you if you're a little bit behind, you can always come in with that pen icon, and that gives you that clean text, and you don't have to look at what anybody else has said. Now, typically, you've done that by Sunday night, before the week's readings begin. But if you are behind, It's just a reminder of how you get a clean text. Over in the wiki, your student work page is filling up with reading response 2s, which were due last night. Presumably the face-to-face class will meet on Friday, and we'll have a chance to talk about some of the directions that we might take this discussion. But for now, by Friday night, you have the job of going back and doing a group response. So you might look at your own groups first. So if you're Amy here, you're maybe going to take a look at what Chris has posted here, and then you're going to kind of go through and look at what everybody else in this group has posted, and vice versa. And remember that if you have something to say to Chris's, specifically about his reading response, you can always use that comment field and make your comment here. Copy and paste it while you're at it. Add that comment, shows up as a comment from you. Okay, get rid of that. But because you've copied and pasted it, let's say you're Amy here, and you've made a comment on Chris's blog. You can go back to your own, and as you're editing your student work page, part of your group response, let's say I'm Amy here and I'm coming in doing this January 23rd GR2, you can do something like this: comments on group mates, copy and paste what you said to Chris. Save that, as always, down here. And that's one of the ways you can sort of get towards your 250 words of writing for the GR2. There are other things you can do with the GR2, obviously, as well, and that is mainly to pick up on ongoing debates that are perhaps raging on Salon about what Rowlandson was up to, or what Bradstreet was up to in her poems. Remembering, too, these reading responses are typically more based on the reading response questions for the week. So remember that reading response questions is very important to giving you some idea of where I would like to take the online and class discussions for the week. And these reading response questions, I think, are particularly useful this week for the follow-up annotations on Salon. With Bradstreet, I saw where a lot of you were struggling to understand where she was coming from, what these poems were all about. Try to go back and use the reading response questions. If you hadn't looked at those before you did those Sunday night annotations, try to use them for your follow-up annotations for tomorrow night, for Thursday night's deadline. And it's perfectly all right, as you know, to come back to, let's say, Salon, even in the blank mode if you want, and make at least four more annotations to maybe the text that you didn't look at the first time, or even the text that you looked at last time that you've now got some more ideas about. I would like for these to be as interactive as possible, so it would still be nice, even if you were doing a fresh reading of something from Bradstreet. I think it's still perfectly nice for you to come in and do either the thought bubble or the eyeball, where in either case you can still just make a clean comment if you'd like. So in the thought bubble of Bradstreet, for instance, let's say you just want to say something about something that hasn't even been commented on yet. You could do this: a weak or wounded brain admits no cure, and still this is going to come up and say, it seems like there aren't any discussions here, as in this particular line. So you could enter some comments and just do what amounts to another initial annotation and have that count as one of your follow-up annotations. But more likely than not, you're going to find stuff that has been commented on already if you are working in this particular version with the thought bubble. So if you just click on this, this particular stanza, you'll see that there's already quite a bit of discussion going on among you and your classmates, your group mates, and the folks in the other section. So you can see a bunch of students here speculating on what this stanza might mean, and you can just join that conversation if you'd like. All right, stay warm. I know it's cold, but as long as you've got electricity and some decent Wi-Fi, wherever you are, let's try to keep the class going. And on-campus students, I will likely see you Friday if the roads are cleared. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.